Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome back to a fresh new episode of Off the Perch, a Manchester United podcast. In this episode, we break down the performance against Spurs. We take a preview of our upcoming Europa League game against Porto as well. We went into the game with very high expectations, Arun. It was a very disappointing performance, and the aftermath has also not been very nice to see. What did you make of it?
No, yeah, as we got into the game, there was this expectation that we are facing one of our direct rivals for a top 4, top 6 position at Old Trafford. So we obviously wanted to come out and showcase that, okay, we are in it for the fight. But I think right in the second, third minute, when we conceded that first goal, it almost felt like the entire squad was deflated after that. Almost became evident that it will be a very difficult task to come back from here in the first half, at least first 35, 40 minutes. Spurs were all over the Manchester United midfield and defense. And we were lucky to only be 1 goal down. Ideally, they could have been 2, 3 goals up. And then the unfortunate red card to Bruno. Which, yeah, at that point in time, it felt like, there's a bit of a high boot, etc. and all of that. But I think across the punditry circle and commentators, etc., felt it was at max a yellow, which later was proved. I think we appealed after the game, and the fact that the decision to ban Bruno for 3 games was taken back, so he is available for the upcoming Premier League games as well. And we'll talk about the rest of this also. But what did you make of VAR not intervening or they allowing that red card to go through? Because I don't understand then what is the point of VAR if when we appeal later, it is realized that, okay, the decision was not fair, the 3-match ban is taken off Bruno. Then VAR should have stepped in right then and there, right? What did you make of that?
No, see, there has been a call to give referees more power. That being said, even if there is like a 1% doubt in the referee's mind that the decision he's made is not correct, he should be going to the VAR. In this case, he didn't go.
No, I was just saying, isn't the other way around? VAR has to come and instruct the referee that we are seeing this, we feel that, we are checking this and all. I don't think it's, because in cricket, it's like the on-the-field umpire can decide to go to the third umpire or whatever. And in football, at least in the Premier League, VAR, I think they have to intervene.
See, the incident happened right in front of the referee. He had Bruno as well as Madison in his sight. I don't think he gave himself any time. I think he had made the decision in like a millisecond that he is going to red card this one. And even in the replays, the high boot seemed a bit accidental. But that being said, you could make a call that it was a 50-50. When it happens so fast, it was a 50-50. Yes, a yellow card would have been a fair punishment for this. But yeah, my problem in the game was the red card didn't change much of the game. We were equally poor before and after the red card. If anything, in the second half, we created a couple of chances. But I don't think Bruno Red was detrimental to our game of play. Or yes, of course, it would have given us more of a chance to come back in the game.
Yeah.
It would have given us more of a chance to maybe win the game, maybe nick the game. But overall, everything considered, I don't think we deserved anything out of the game. If anything, 3-0 was a kind score to us.
Absolutely. There is no discounting that fact. I am not saying had the red card not happened, things would have been different and all. It is not an excuse for the performance we had. Only thing is that it sometimes when the game is 1-0, and you put the squad in a position where you are suddenly, you have not been playing well, you are now 10 against 11, that whatever little hope that you have suddenly vanishes. And I had hoped that, there would be some tactical changes in the second half, and how we played after the second goal, it felt like we had a little bit in us to at least nick a goal and make a match out of it. But I think at the start of the second half, again, within the first couple of minutes, us conceding that goal, and again, maybe it was tactical where Licha would step in a little bit in the midfield to provide that support to the midfield, so that's how the other midfielders can be part of the attack. But once that second goal happened, although we kept trying, I think there was a brief 10-15 minute period where we were putting a lot of pressure. Old Trafford backed the players at that point in time. The volume was very high at Old Trafford at that point in time from the crowd. But I never felt that we'll be able to nick back 2 goals in. And when the third happened, I think it was just the writing on the wall.
Not taking from our performance how bad we were. I think we should give 1 minute to how good Spurs were in this game. a lot of this came from their very high and very effective pressing, which only in the first half, it ended up in Spurs gaining possessions 7 times in the final third. That's a very high number for a pressing team. This is how a pressing is to be done. We have to give a special mention to Kulusevski. The man created 9 chances in the game, which is the highest number of chances created by any player in the Premier League in any game since the time these stats have been starting recording. And eventually, we have to tip our hats off to Ange Postecoglou also, because he made the decision to put Maddison White, to put Udogie there in the midfield, to crowd that midfield, and that led to the intelligent passes from Kulusevski, and that led to all the goals. And of course, we have to tip our hat to Mickey Van de Ven also, because you don't see this is why we love Premier League football. You get to see these unnatural moments, fast run from a centre back who isn't getting tackled, and what a brilliant pinpoint cross to end it. So yeah, we have to give Tottenham that they came and they did the job on Manchester United.
Maybe things have changed now, but back in the day, coming to Old Trafford was never easy, and teams typically in the preparation of coming to Old Trafford to play Manchester United up their levels in the game, and which is what we haven't been able to deal well with in the last couple of years. While I agree with what you said in terms of how they played this one, my challenge for Manchester United there is that this has become something very evident where good opposition, and I'm talking about a Liverpool here, I'm talking about Spurs here, they're able to identify that if they're able to create that overload in the midfield, aggressively press, they will be inviting mistakes from our players, and which is what was happening. Even after we conceded the first goal, where the ball was given in the other half by Rashford and Garnacho combination, and Van de Ven just run through the entire midfield and defense. Even after that, we saw De Ligt overcommitting, coming up to the midfield line, making an error, and Spurs being through. We saw Licha Martinez do that. We saw mistakes from passing mistakes from Ugarte. So it was very evident that we are not able to tackle that system when the opposition is pressing aggressively with an overload in the midfield. So my question then comes to our management, and I am not taking Erik ten Hag's name in specific, it is the entire coaching staff. What is it that we are doing match on match to figure out, okay, if this is the challenge the opposition can bring? Or what about in-game management, that we are seeing some of this happening? How are we tackling some of that? So which is where I think we have been lacking. And I know this entire circus has started after the defeat against Spurs. Some of that is uncalled for. But questioning the entire coaching staff on the tactics is, I think, definitely something we all should be doing. Results is one thing. This was a lack of performance as well. And you could say after the third minute, the team went into that old shell of, okay, we are our backs against the wall and all of that. But some things need to change. And I don't know what. How is it that this coaching staff is going to manage that? But things have to change.
Yeah, the two specific things, if we are talking tactics, that have to change for me, in my opinion, are one, our disjointed press. Our disjointed press leads to our midfield being wide open. I see Bruno and Zirkzee pressing at unnatural times. There is no set pattern in play. Gary Neville pointed out that very well, that the trigger for a press is usually when a certain player who is not great with the ball, a centre back say, you press either that time, or if they move to their weaker side, their right side or their left side, whatever is the weaker side. That is usually the trigger for a press. In our team, that is not the case. We press at unnatural times. Our whole team doesn't press together, which leads to a big gap between our defense and the attacking team. And our midfield is carved open like this in 1 second. So that disjointed press is my biggest problem, that there is no patterns. And even if we are doing that disjointed press, there is no one to cover up for their teammates. If we leave one space open, it never is the case that another teammate comes up and, everyone seems to be playing for themselves. That is a problem with the players. That is not a problem with the management.
No, which is what I was exactly going to come to, the disjointed press, and I would agree there. But is it on the coaching staff or is it on the players? You could say that on the field, it looks like it is on the players, but a good coaching staff would recognize that either this is beyond the capability of the squad that we have, or it is beyond the capability of certain players that we are playing in that position. So what is it that we need to change? Do we need to change the style of play to suit the players, which a lot of managers do? or do we need to change our players to match the style of play? And okay, we have a few new members in the coaching staff, but Eric Ten Hag's reign, this has been the third year now. We have got probably across the squad, we have got players that he has asked for or he has demanded or he comes in with a certain background with. So either the coaching staff should be adjusting to the players that we have and looking at finding results from that, or figuring out a way of how we play different players in those positions. Because as much as it is individual mistakes of the players, the backing has to, or the ownership has to come from the coaching staff or the management in this case.
No, putting the onus on the management side, I believe the set patterns we play in, it leads to our game being heavily reliant on individual brilliance rather than set patterns. The fact that our wingers are so wide, the fact that Garnacho and Rashford are so wide when we are playing our 4-2-4, it makes our play into Rashford and Garnacho having to beat their 2 or 3 men on their side. And this has been the case. That being said, I still believe we have created enough chances this season to be much higher on the table than we are right now. One, we have created enough chances. Second, I don't think we have defended bad. Yes, I mean, it sounds very odd coming out of 2-3-0 defeats from Liverpool and Spurs. That being said, I think we have let in much lesser chances than last year. Last year was not a good barometer at any given point of day. But that being said, we have conceded very less chances, and I still believe a lot of these are individual errors, which have to be weeded out.
I agree on the point when you speak about, defensively compared to last year, we've been better. But I was just trying to think on that. And I think we're better against slightly lesser oppositions. We are able to manage them better. We are able to control the games relatively better than last year, and which is where we are conceding less chances and all of that. We are not that open. But the moment it comes to teams which have equal or better quality of individual players than us, and they're probably tactically better set up or equally set up, they are able to invite mistakes from our players. Now, why these mistakes are happening, there could be multiple reasons. One is the mentality and the fragility of the players. They are not very confident in tackling those situations. That could be a challenge. I don't know how that is solved for. The second could be that we are not adapting to these games, and probably you briefly touched about the fact that setting up those patterns of play, we are probably going in with this mindset that, okay, irrespective of the opposition, we will try to play a certain way. And I think which is where we are creating a little bit of a hole for ourselves, which we are falling in. Because, see, we realize we are not the best squad in the Premier League. We are probably 5th, 6th best squad or something on those lines in the Premier League. So, in some of the games, we will have to be pragmatic. We will have to be that team which, has less of the ball, is able to win the games on counter, etc. And I don't see any shame in doing that. But it's just that I don't know whether it is a bit of a ego, whether it is a bit of a thing that, okay, we are going to try and play superior football, but then making mistakes and losing 3-0 at Old Trafford. So maybe a little bit of more pragmatism is also required.
Agree, completely agree. Two things. We can either point out the management, or on the flip side of it, the player power we were talking about. Benny McCarthy, our assistant head coach, who was very close with all the players, by the way, who just left this season, he's come out and talked about some players not being motivated enough in our dressing room. These players are still in the dressing room as we speak.
Yeah.
He talked about Dalot and Bruno being extremely motivated during the training sessions. And he said there are some players who are not as motivated. Then we have our senior player, Christian Eriksen, come after the 20 game, talking about how 20 players wanted it more. How can that ever be the case that a team against Manchester United playing a European game at Old Trafford are more motivated than us? This is not on the management. If you are wearing the Manchester United badge, it is on you to find that motivation. I don't even know if they have to go very deep to find that motivation. That playing in that stadium and playing for a club with that kind of history, that should be motivation enough for any player. There are academy players who will give their 200% if they are given a chance. If we have bought you from another club and if you're not putting in a shift, it's game over for me. So that is where I think some collective responsibility has to be there. Just cause the manager's job is dispensable, just cause he can be sacked off in middle of the season, doesn't mean that after every defeat we call for his head. If we have to call for someone ahead, it has to be the players as well. They are the ones who are the common denominator between the last three or four managers. Ole was sacked, Ragnick, and then Erik Ten Hag came. These players have been common. We haven't received results against Ole in the last 10 games. We didn't receive the result under Ragnick. And now Erik Ten Hag is trying to build his identity into the team. On which point you mentioned that we have some new players and they will take the time. We want to touch upon that.
Yeah, so I agree with what you are saying, and this is a bit of a unfortunate circumstance of modern football that we see today. The players have all the power. Just look at the basics, right? Today, how much you're compensated essentially highlights the value that you bring to a, let's say, not just for a football club, to an organization. The very fact that these players are paid much more than the manager makes them believe that we are more powerful than the manager. That's as simple as it gets, right? But that is the unfortunate world that we live in. That is how it is. And in fact, Erik Ten Hag in his latest press conference also said that as a management, all of us are united. He kept reiterating that. He said that 2-3 times that I have meetings with Dan Ashworth and we are working as one team. We are united and all of that. And it is our decision. So I think he's also trying to position himself in that hierarchy rather than being a standalone manager. And yeah, you are absolutely right. I think I will go back to even Jose Mourinho. So Mourinho, I think the players put down their tools. Same happened with Ole. I think Ralf Rangnick, everybody knew that he is just in it for as a caretaker manager and all of that. And some of it we are seeing today as well. Some of the players have changed, but a lot of players are Erik Ten Hag's players, and I expect them to back the manager. I mean, De Ligt is a pure play Ten Hag boy. Eriksen, I think, has had a good relationship with him in the past. Licha Martinez is a Erik Ten Hag player. Onana is an Erik Ten Hag player. So I think they will pretty much form the spine of this squad. I think they have to step up in the upcoming games. Otherwise, if this goes on, the unfortunate thing is there will be pressure from the fans. There will be pressure from media. And as much as I don't want it to happen, as much as I want this cycle of managers being sacked every second, third year break, it will go on and Ineos will buckle under the pressure. So I just hope the next two games, it is very critical because we are, right before an international break. It will gives, if we don't perform well in those two, it gives the media, the fans 15 days to put a lot of pressure. Ineos will probably have certain meetings to decide what is it that we can do. We will sort of be put under a lot of pressure. So which is what makes the next two games very important. We are playing Porto away in the Europa League tonight. And then we are playing Aston Villa at Villa Park over the weekend, who just beat Bayern Munich 1-0. So it will be tough games. But if we can come out on top in these two tough games, I think the pressure will ease a little bit.
Agreed. And I'd just like to take the conversation, just to close it out, back to player power. Player power works when the players are that good. I think one of the Dutch managers, one of the Dutch legends, Marco van Basten, he came out and said, United have no star players now. Every team has star players. He pronounced that we don't have any star players. And, I was mad for a second, but then I thought about it, and he isn't wrong, The way we play now, if Bruno and Rashford don't perform, there's so much more pressure on players like Ahmad, Garnacho, Højlund, Zirkzee. Not that all of them have just come into the league, but they're young players. There was a time when we had a spine of a team, when we had really good players, we have really world-class players, and then we try and introduce some players into the team. Right now, we are asking the world out of Kobe Mainoo. Right now, we are asking the world out of Garnacho. And even though managing expectations is important, it is important to see that collective responsibility is taken by all the players.